Velvet Crown, a high-end restaurant in Mayfair, London. You are my father. Amara's voice was low but firm. She stood upright, her hands gripping the tray of silk napkins, eyes fixed on the silver-haired man seated in the corner, Sir Reginald Whitford. He looked untouchable, dressed in a tailored Savile Row suit, like a man carved out of legacy and control. Sir Reginald looked up, his face unflinching. "Excuse me. What did you say?" he replied, his aristocratic British accent polished and icy. "My name is Amara Williams. My mother's name is Loretta Williams." You knew her. There was the slightest flicker in his eyes, barely a movement like a distant echo from the past. But then, he gave a small, composed smile. "I'm afraid you've mistaken me for someone else." Amara swallowed her nerves. She slipped a hand into her apron, pulled a worn photograph, and placed it on the table. "Then what about this? You're the man in this photo, aren't you?" Sir Reginald glanced down. His fingers hovered over the edge of the photo before picking it up. A black and white image. A man in his mid-30s with thick brown hair and a tuxedo, standing beside a radiant black woman in a vintage silk dress. They were smiling, her arm linked through his, their eyes locked in their world. His face hardened. His eyes didn't leave the photograph. His lips parted slightly, as if he'd just seen a ghost from a life buried beneath accolades and ribbon-cutting ceremonies. But before he could say anything, a sharp voice sliced through the air. "Amara, what the hell do you think you're doing?" Robert Green, the restaurant manager, stormed over. His face was flushed, pulled tight with fury. Ignoring the guests, he wedged between Amara and Sir Reginald, blocking her view. "You think you can pull a stunt like this before our most distinguished guest? Our VIP of VIPs? Just for attention?" Amara stepped back, but her gaze didn't waver. "This isn't about money," she said. Robert squinted, voice laced with contempt. "Oh, it's not? You walk up to one of the most powerful men in the country and yell that he's your father? What for? A payout? A ticket out of this life? Number?" Her voice was unmistakable. "I came for the truth." Before she finished, Robert's hand flew up. Smack. The sound of the slap cracked through the gold leaf air where champagne flutes and piano keys usually danced. But now silence. Heads turned. Amara's vision blurred for a moment, her cheek burning. But she didn't bow her head. "You don't get to lay a hand on me," she said, her voice trembling not from fear, but from rage. Robert turned to Sir Reginald, switching personas like flipping a switch. He bowed, oily and apologetic. "Sir Whitford, I deeply apologize. She'll be dismissed immediately." He grabbed Amara's arm, pulling her toward the service corridor. Then a low, deliberate voice rang out. "Stop." Robert froze. Sir Reginald was still staring at the photograph, but his composure was gone. He set the photo down. "Let her go." Robert hesitated. "Sir, with all due respect, I want Miss Amara to sit down with me," Reginald said clearly. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. A few murmurs stirred the air. Robert opened his mouth to protest, then thought better of it. He dropped her arm like it burned him and backed away, mumbling as he left. Amara stood still, surrounded by whispers and eyes. Her cheeks still stung. Her heart raced. "You want me to sit here?" she asked. Sir Reginald pulled out the chair opposite him. "Perhaps. We should talk." A small flat in Hackney, East London, a rainy night. The third-floor flat in Hackney wasn't large, but it was tidy and warm. The window overlooked a dimly lit car park, where rainwater pooled on the tarmac in glistening puddles. In the living room, 3 people sat facing each other. Amara, her mother, Loretta Williams, and the man whom neither of them had seen in nearly 30 years. Sir Reginald Whitford sat awkwardly on a faded fabric armchair, out of place among the humble trappings of real-life family photo frames, a wool blanket, a small cactus perched on a shelf. This room had no vintage wine, baccarat crystal, or watches worth more than the flat. Only truth. Loretta sat with her arms folded, leaning back against the sofa. Her eyes never left the man before her. "So you finally decided to show your face." Her voice wasn't angry, wasn't raised, but it was something heavier than rage. A fatigue. A wound that had never been acknowledged. Sir Reginald took a long breath. He removed the Rolex from his wrist, as though shedding a layer before facing his past. "I didn't know you kept that photo." "I kept everything," Loretta replied. "Not because I wanted to remember. but so my daughter would know where she came from. Amara sat between them, heart racing, unsure whether she was witnessing a reunion or an unspoken trial. So, do you admit it? She asked, eyes locked on him. I'm your daughter? Reginald looked at her for a long, quiet moment, then gave a slight nod. Yes. A single word, yet it carried the weight of an entire lifetime missed. Amara fell silent. In her mind, the memories surged. The nights she had asked her mother, "Who is my father?" The hesitant answers, the quiet tears all flooding back. Loretta's lip curled slightly in a cold, measured expression. You knew I was pregnant when you left. Reginald nodded. My family made me sign an agreement. If I cut ties with you, I could keep my title, scholarship, everything. And you chose silence? Loretta asked, her words deliberate. I had no choice, he murmured. I was afraid they'd destroy you. You destroyed me with your silence. Her voice was soft but sharp as steel. The air turned heavy. Outside, the rain intensified, drumming harder against the window as if trying to shatter the sealed space within. Amara clasped her hands tightly. And what about me? She asked. Was I just something you decided to leave behind? Sir Reginald met her gaze. His gray eyes, once imperious, now held exhaustion. Number. You were the most precious thing I ever lost. Silence. Then Loretta stood. No more words. Amara is old enough to decide whether she forgives you. As for me, I've already forgiven myself for being strong enough to raise her without you. She entered the kitchen, leaving the two alone in the living room. Amara looked at Reginald. So what now? You want to be a father? Start over? He gave a sad smile. No one can start over. But we can start from here. She didn't reply. Instead, she stood and walked to the window. Outside, the rain blurred the world like a curtain of the past, obscuring what lay ahead. You can start, she said without turning around, by standing with me. There's a lot you don't know. And we're about to confront it. Sir Reginald looked up. What is it? Amara turned to face him. Her eyes no longer held only anger but resolve. Do you know what your company is hiding underground? A long pause. Then he said quietly, Number. But I'm ready to find out. The Ritz-Carlton, London. International Charity. Gala for the Environment. The clinking of glass, the shimmering reflections of crystal chandeliers casting hundreds of glittering lights across the high ceiling. Tuxedos and couture gowns. Politicians, tycoons, celebrities, all gathered for one night of prestige and spectacle. The gala's theme. The earth is our shared home. A slogan echoing through a ballroom filled with people shaping the world, many of whom have also wounded it. At the center of the room, standing beside a wall of white roses, was Sir Reginald Whitford, the face of the evening. The spotlight cast him like a lighthouse in a sea of champagne and influence. But this time, he was not alone. Amara Williams stood beside him. An emerald green satin gown hugged her frame like a silent declaration. Her hair was pinned high, her spine straight, eyes steady. She was no longer the waitress from Mayfair. She walked as if she had always belonged here the world had failed to notice. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. Side glances. Tight-lipped smiles. Media crews raised their cameras, reporters from The Guardian, BBC, Vogue Environment, all present. Then, the event host took the stage, microphone in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor to welcome tonight's principal sponsor, Sir Reginald Whitford. Applause rang out. Sir Reginald stepped to the podium. Lights converged on him. He adjusted the mic, briefly glancing at Amara below the stage. She gave a subtle nod. He began, Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your trust and for caring about this planet, our wounded home. I've lived in this world for 63 years. In that time, I've witnessed progress, innovation, destruction, and at times, I've turned a blind eye to mistakes. Tonight, I want to share something deeply personal, something I've never made public. He paused. Tension spread like mist across the ballroom. This is Amara Williams, he said, turning and extending a hand toward her. My daughter. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Camera flashes erupted. Murmurs broke into waves. A German socialite dropped her wine glass. It shattered across the marble floor. In the VIP row, a platinum blonde woman in white Givenchy narrowed her eyes. Evelyn Whitford. She rose slowly, deliberately. No one dared stop her. She walked through the rows like a ghost in heels. Guests parted like waves before a prow. Her face was serene, but her eyes burned like tempered steel. She stopped in front of Amara. "Hello," she said with a cold smile. "I'm Reginald's wife. Which makes me your stepmother, doesn't it?" Amara didn't flinch. "I don't need a stepmother." "Oh, but you'll need many other things," Evelyn murmured. "The media will tear your past apart, every pay stub from your waitressing days, every scratch in your mother's medical record, every welfare check. And you think this satin gown can cover that?" "No," Amara replied. "But the truth can." Evelyn's expression darkened. "You've just entered a world where the rules are written in power. You think you'll survive?" Amara smiled soft as air. "I didn't come here to survive. I came to change everything." She turned and walked away, leaving Evelyn alone under the weight of stares for the first time, no one rushing to her side. At that exact moment, a reporter called out to Sir Reginald, "Are you afraid of losing your seat on the Whitford Holdings board?" He shook his head. "I'm afraid of losing my daughter a second time." Hackney, London Vertical Bar, 3 days after the gala. The rain tapped gently against the window, but the warmth vanished inside Amara's flat. Her phone buzzed for the 3rd time in under 10 minutes. The screen lit up another message from an unknown number. "Even stars sink if viewed from the ocean floor. You should stop." Amara sighed and set the phone down. She wasn't shocked anymore, just cold in the back, with a rising sense of dread. Since the gala, she had been followed. Clearly, a strange man always stood at the underground station a little too close. On the way home, the taxi behind her had changed drivers 3 times. Her mother Loretta had started receiving silent calls at midnight. One evening, Amara noticed the balcony lock had been tampered with, though nothing was taken. At first, she thought she was imagining things. But then on Tuesday morning, she opened the communal mailbox in the lobby and found a small parcel. No sender, no notch, just a silver-blue toy truck, rusted on one side, and a small folded piece of paper with handwriting, "Keep digging, and die beneath the wheels." Her hands trembled as she held the package. She looked up. The security camera had been turned to face the wall. That evening, Hackney apartment. Sir Reginald entered. His first time visiting since the gala. No guards, no driver, just a father shaken. "You called me here because of the threats?" he asked, eyes locking on the toy truck on the table. I called you because..." "The truth is starting to move," Amara replied. She handed him her phone. A string of anonymous texts filled the screen. The most recent had arrived just 7 minutes earlier. "You won't be able to save him." Reginald clenched his fists. "Who do you think is behind this? Evelyn?" "No. Evelyn pulls strings. But she doesn't get her hands dirty." She paused. "It's someone else. Possibly from the company. Maybe connected to the buried projects." "How far have you looked into this?" he asked. Amara didn't answer immediately. She opened her laptop, typed in a secure string, and brought up a file. "Kimber, Excave, 2034. PDF. Did you know Whitford Holdings funded an underground excavation project on the outskirts of Amsterdam?" "Yes. It was a cargo logistics expansion." "Number." She shook her head. "That was the front. Beneath the ground were hundreds of barrels of unregistered toxic waste. Satellite images from 2019 show a clear land depression in the area." Reginald went pale. Amara pointed to a graph. "And here, the locations of groundwater poisoning from 2020 to 2023. They align perfectly with the project's perimeter." "Where did you get this data?" "I'm not working alone. There's a journalist, Maria Alvarez, and an environmental activist in Ghana, Daniel Mensah. They've been tracking Whitford Holdings for 7 years. Reginald stood, walking to the window. He stared down at the street. His eyes settled on a gray car parked across the road, dark-tinted windows, no visible driver. "That car. Has it been there all day?" Amara nodded. "I called the police. They said there's no suspicious behavior." Reginald gave a bitter laugh. "That's precisely why we can't go the usual way. We need another method." 2 days later, a small cafe in Shoreditch. Amara met Maria Alvarez for the first time. With sunglasses on and hair tied back, Maria spoke in Spanish and English, sharp, fast, and to the point. "You've just stepped into a minefield," she said flatly. This isn't just environmental anymore. It's a web of finance, international shipping, and money laundering. And if I'm right, industrial waste coming in from Asia. She slid a USB drive across the table. This file could get a duchess's daughter arrested. But if you go public without planning, you'll disappear before the headline hits print. So what do I need? Amara asked. Maria answered without blinking. You need an explosion. Something they can't bury. A confession. Amsterdam. A foggy night. Zeebrugge port. The night hung thick over Zeebrugge port. Massive container cranes moved in silence like specters in the dark. Amara, Maria Alvarez, and Daniel Mensah crouched behind a 4-story wall of shipping containers in a shadowed corner far from the traffic lanes. They had arrived from London in a van registered under the name of a European climate research group. In front of them loomed a cargo ship flying the Liberian flag but managed by a Whitford Holdings subsidiary, Ocean Crest Maritime Limited. This is the vessel that left Tema Port in Ghana 3 months ago, Daniel whispered, peering through a thermal scope. It sailed through the Baltic Sea, docked here in Zeebrugge without an official import declaration. Maria pulled up a port infrastructure map on her tablet. Look at the docking position. Not part of the legal route. And here. She pointed to old satellite imagery. Every time this ship docks, the port's surveillance system mysteriously goes into maintenance mode. Amara gazed toward the ship. A large gray container was being lowered from the crane, and no identification code existed. What's inside? She asked. Daniel took out a short video clip grainy footage from a hidden camera set up by a port worker. The image was blurry but clear enough. Massive steel drums with red warning labels. Hazardous waste. Category D7. Maria added. D7 refers to toxic petroleum byproducts. Transporting it undeclared is illegal under EU law. But Ocean Crest, a front company, has done it at least 11 times this year alone. Amara clenched her fists. And the money? Maria narrowed her eyes. It funnels into private equity green funds at Whitford Holdings, then is laundered through Malta and the Cayman Islands banks. The next day, European Climate Data Center, The Hague. Amara and Daniel met Leonard Briggs in a secure server room, a former environmental data analyst forced into hiding after whistleblowing. I have sensor data from soil monitors outside Amsterdam where the Kimber project was based, Leonard said, opening a 3D terrain model. The land sinks 2.5 centimeters per year. Geological layers show decomposition of large subterranean objects. Minor radiation readings. This isn't ordinary soil. Amara stared at the map. So they buried toxic waste in the Netherlands, shipped from Ghana using their fleet, and laundered it through fake sustainability funds? Leonard nodded grimly. All under the guise of green development. They're not just lying, they're killing people. Dozens of locals near the site suffer from respiratory illnesses. 3 leukemia deaths. No investigations. That night, hotel room in Rotterdam. Amara sat by the window, watching the harbor lights ripple across the water's surface. Her phone rang. Sir Reginald. I know where you are, he said. Calling to stop me? Amara replied. Number. To warn you. You have 48 hours before Ocean Crest reroutes the ship back to Asia. All data wiped. Ship renamed. And you? They'll paint you as an environmental spy. I know, she said calmly. But I have a plan. A beat of silence. What kind of plan? Amara replied. I'm going to make Evelyn confess. On camera. And I will make her believe she's still in control when she does it. The next day, email to Evelyn Whitford. Subject. Let's talk. From Shadow Ridge at Proton Mail. Come. Meet me in room 407, Westbury Hotel. I have what you want, hidden the container scan codes from Zeebrugge. You. Alone. No security staff. Or I call the press first. Evelyn Whitford narrowed her eyes, her breath sharp. A wolf sensing a challenge or a trap. But she went. Alone. Driven by curiosity. Fueled by vengeance. And addicted to control. Room 407, Westbury Hotel, London Vertical Bar, 8:37 p.m. The door clicked shut behind Evelyn Whitford, and the air in the room turned to lead. She wore a white power suit. The scent of rare oud perfume lingered. Her Louboutins struck the floor with each step, like a metronome counting out calculated intentions. Across from her sat Amara Williams, back straight, unmoved. A cup of steaming mint tea rested before her. There were no pleasantries, no gestures of hospitality, only a small phone, quietly recording video, hidden within the digital alarm clock on the table. "Why did you call me here, Amara?" Evelyn asked, removing her sunglasses, eyes as sharp as razors. "Because you once believed you controlled everything," Amara said, gaze steady. "But today, I set the rules." Evelyn smirked. "You're going to threaten me with evidence? How quaint. There's no evidence my legal team hasn't already turned into a formatting error." Amara didn't flinch. She pulled out a sheet of paper, a scanned copy of a container manifest from Zeebrugge, forged with the port director's signature. Attached was a list of offshore account codes from the Cayman Islands, all linked to Ocean Crest, and to the name E. Whitford. Evelyn glanced at it and smiled. So what? A string of numbers. Anyone can make those up. No recording. No witnesses. Amara tilted her head slightly. "Do you know who gave me those numbers first?" "Reginald. He's beginning to feel remorse." Evelyn's expression darkened. "So the old dog turns on me now?" "No," Amara replied. "He's finally doing what's right, something you'll never understand." The air grew still. Evelyn let out a high, scraping laugh. "You're so naive. This world doesn't bend to truth. It bends to power. Do you know how many governments once held files on the Kimber scandal only to close them after one call from me?" She leaned closer, her voice like acid. "I've paid to bury tons of toxic waste beneath the homes of the poor because no one cared. I've made 3 whistleblowers commit suicide, and I won't hesitate to add another." Silence. Then Amara rose to her feet, eyes steady, no longer afraid. "Thank you, Evelyn." Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "For what?" Amara turned the clock toward her. Its screen lit up. Rec. 12:43. Evelyn froze. Amara stepped forward and tapped send. The video was uploaded to 3 locations simultaneously. Maria Alvarez's inbox, an international human rights lawyer in Brussels, an independent investigative bureau in Berlin. "You just confessed to everything, in your voice." Evelyn backed away. "You think that little video will be enough? I'll sue you for breach of privacy." "You can try," Amara said calmly. "But the full Kimber data, the shipping routes, the accounts, and your voice are all scheduled to appear across major news outlets and social media platforms." She opened her laptop and pressed a single button. Schedule release. 6 a.m. GMT vertical bar global. Evelyn collapsed into the chair. The woman who once manipulated parliaments and media with a whisper, now just a woman with trembling hands and panic-stricken eyes. Amara picked up her bag and walked out. Hotel hallway, Osm, Padesat 7 p.m. Sir Reginald stood waiting outside the room, his face taut with tension. "Did it work?" Amara nodded, her eyes a little red. "I don't feel proud, but it had to be done." Reginald took her hand for the first time, not as a tycoon, but as a father. "You just changed the whole game." 48 hours after the video leak, vertical bar London, Brussels, New York. As the sun rose over the Thames, the video of Evelyn Whitford's confession appeared on the front pages of The Guardian, Le Monde, Der Spiegel, and CNN International. The audio was cold, unedited, her voice. "I paid to bury tons of toxic waste beneath the land of the poor because no one cared." The internet erupted. The hashtag Whitford cover-up reached the global #1 trend in under 6 hours. The Dutch Ministry of Environment issued a statement. "We are launching an independent investigation into the Kimber site." The European Human Rights Commission demanded full disclosure of all financial records linked to Ocean Crest. But then, Day 3, Deve Anolanam, Whitford Holdings HQ, London. Evelyn Whitford sat, surrounded by crisis advisors, inside the glass-walled executive boardroom on the 42nd floor. She looked hollow, but far from defeated. Benedict Rowe, lead counsel, a man who'd won more than a dozen international litigation cases, stood and spoke. "We deny everything. Call it a deepfake." A PR strategist added, "We'll hire 50 high-profile influencer accounts, push AI voice forgery theories, seed public doubt, file a privacy violation lawsuit for unauthorized recording." Another slid a file across the table. "Here's financial history on Amara's mother, Loretta Williams. There's an old unpaid loan. We can revive it, question her credibility." Evelyn didn't speak. She lifted her teacup, eyes blank, and whispered, "Smear." Stall. Bury the truth in noise. Amara's flat. Same day. Her phone lit up with waves of notifications. Amara Williams is a fraud. Don't trust anyone who doesn't know their father. An illegitimate child using fake audio to destroy a national icon. Each second brought hundreds of new comments. Under every article about the scandal, an AI-driven bot army flooded conspiracy theories, splitting public opinion. Daniel Mensa called via video, "My page just got taken down." Maria got a legal threat: retract the article or face litigation. One journalist from the Brussels group got hit by a car. He survived, but it was a message. Amara clenched her fists. They're retaliating with the whole machine. Exactly, Maria said. And this is the real test. If you retreat now, everything that happened will be wiped like it never existed. Climate Justice Alliance HQ, Brussels. The Emergency Council gathered after reviewing the evidence. Sophia Leclerc, the chairwoman, addressed the room. We are not facing a single corporation. We're facing a global mechanism that lets the powerful bury their waste under the homes of the powerless and pay lawyers to erase the truth. The council issued a resolution. We will convene an international tribunal for the first time on transnational environmental crimes, placing Whitford Holdings under international jurisdiction. Evening, Heathrow Airport. Amara stood at the departure gate. She was stopped by border security. Your name has been flagged. Special inspection protocol. You're not allowed to leave the United Kingdom. She froze. Behind her, a Home Office agent stepped forward, holding a dossier. We received a formal accusation regarding environmental tech espionage, filed by Mrs. Evelyn Whitford. And this time, the law is on their side. International Climate Justice Court, Brussels, Belgium. Unlike traditional courtrooms, this International Climate Justice Court hearing featured more than judges and lawyers. Hundreds of journalists, environmental advocates, and victims of industrial pollution from around the globe filled the chamber. Morning light streamed through massive glass walls, casting reflections across the chamber. Amara Williams sat surrounded by a swarm of media. Her face remained calm, though her hands trembled lightly beneath the table. Behind her, the screen displayed, Hearing 47 Ampere, Transnational Environmental Crimes, Whitford Holdings and the Kimber Project. Seated across from her was Evelyn Whitford, flanked by 4 senior attorneys and a strategic communications specialist. Opening of the hearing. Chief Judge Sophia Leclerc addressed the chamber. This is not a criminal court, but it is a place where the truth must be heard. We cannot let power protect poison or silence protect environmental violence. She invited Amara to deliver the opening testimony. H.E. Testimony of Amara Williams. Amara Rose. Her voice was steady, not loud, but every word hit the glass walls like a hammer. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a lawyer. I'm the daughter of a black woman who once scrubbed the floors for the people sitting on the other side of this room. My mother had no idea that the land she once lived on, Kimber, was used to bury illegal industrial waste. I didn't begin this journey for revenge. I did it because if we don't speak up, places like Ghana, Nigeria, and Bangladesh will continue to be the dumping grounds for Western greed. Silence swept across the courtroom. Some audience members squeezed hands. Maria and Daniel nodded from the press bench. Whitford's defense. Benedict Rowe, senior counsel, stood composed, words sharp as steel. We reject the use of clandestine recordings as admissible evidence. It is a gross violation of privacy rights. My client, Mrs. Evelyn Whitford, is the target of a coordinated misinformation campaign. Her voice was digitally replicated using advanced AI technology. Furthermore, the claimant, Miss Williams, is an illegitimate child with no legal standing or authorization to access internal documents. Public reaction. Outside the court, hundreds of protesters gathered in support of Amara. Our soil, our voice. No justice, no peace. Stop environmental colonialism. Meanwhile, a smaller countergroup rallied. Do not cancel Whitford. Fake voice, real agenda. Online, social media exploded with debate. The BBC interviewed residents of Kimber. A young mother sobbed on camera. My son died of leukemia. I don't want a lawyer. I want someone to clean the poison from my land. Mid-hearing, a breakthrough moment. Maria Alvarez approached the tribunal with a critical new piece of evidence. GPS tracking data from ocean crest ships matched against cargo manifests from ports in Ghana, Malta, and the Netherlands. She displayed an interactive map. This is no longer just testimony. This is the path of the waste, and on every shipment, there's a digital signature from the executive board of Whitford Holdings. The courtroom gasped. A tribunal member whispered, "There's no denying it now." Evelyn remained seated, but her knuckles turned white from the pressure of her grip. A morale turning point. Sir Reginald's statement. Unexpectedly, Sir Reginald Whitford requested to address the court. He looked exhausted but resolute. "I authorized the Kimber Project. I remained silent when I saw the waste being mismanaged. I don't blame Evelyn. I blame myself for placing profit above life." He bowed his head, then turned to Amara. "Thank you for giving me the chance to make it right, even though I don't deserve it." Brussels, Amsterdam. London vertical bar 72 hours after the hearing. Amara thought the endgame had begun. The truth had been spoken, witnesses had risen, and the world was finally listening. But what she didn't expect was this. The system doesn't die in the light. It thrashes viciously in the final shadows. Day 1. Sedum, Triam, Maria Alvarez's office. Brussels. Maria had just opened her laptop when every screen turned blue. An alert appeared. System breach. Investigative, data wiped. Over 3 years of research, shipping maps, confidential Ghana records, satellite footage, gone in 8 minutes. Backup servers were locked behind a ransomware firewall. Daniel Mensah called in. "Our NGO's site is blocked across Africa. National newspapers are calling me a foreign-funded spy." A leaked memo from Ghana's foreign ministry followed. Daniel Mensah is no longer recognized as a legal representative of any environmental organization. Day 2, 12:42 p.m. London. Amara's bank account was frozen. Reason: under investigation for suspected links to an anti-state organization. Simultaneously, her mother, Loretta Williams, was summoned by police to clarify foreign funding activities from 2004, connected to a small donation from a French human rights NGO. Amara was nearly stripped bare. No funds. No safe shelter. Former allies were randomly audited or silenced. Day 3. 2:19 a.m. vertical bar. Anonymous message. "Stop now. We'll spare your mother. Spare your friends. But if you continue, there will be nothing left to save." Amara stared at the screen. In the dark room, her eyes burned with fury. "They're not deleting evidence," she whispered. "They're deleting trust. That's the real target." Meanwhile, secret meeting room. London. Evelyn Whitford sat quietly, thinner, grayer but still smiling. Benedict Rowe delivered his report. "By combining legal, media, financial, and intelligence efforts, we've cornered her into helplessness. If needed, we can leak insider information, suggesting Amara trained with a government sabotage cell in Nigeria. Doesn't have to be true, just enough to plant doubt." Evelyn crossed her arms, eyes gleaming. "We don't need to defeat the truth. We need the world to stop knowing who to believe." But what they didn't know. In a small basement room in Amsterdam, Amara, Maria, Daniel, and a shadowy specialist named Elif, a former Interpol cybersecurity engineer, worked in silence. Amara spoke. "They've erased everything from the press, from social media, from court records. But there's one thing they can't erase." Elif opened her laptop. "I once built a decentralized storage network in Greenland. It's untouched. Every person who downloaded the Evelyn video, every user who saved even one page, they're holding fragments of the truth." Danielle smiled. "So what do we need?" Amara's eyes locked forward. "A release they can't stop. A global event. A fire faster than power can smother." Underground meeting. Independent Journalists Alliance. Berlin. Maria stood before the group with a bold plan. "We'll create something called Fragmented Truth, an open-source app that splits the data into millions of shards, sending them randomly to users worldwide. Anyone who opens the app helps reconstruct the entire case, from the confessions to the cargo routes to the financial records. They can't sue 1 million people. They can't imprison 1 billion truths." Amara nodded slowly. "I no longer need to win in court. I need the world to stop being silent." Global Release Day. The day the world could no longer look away. 0 o'clock. Across the globe, The app Fractured Truth officially launched. Within just 6 hours, over 3.7 million people across 60-plus countries had downloaded it. Each user received a random shard. Evelyn's confession. Toxic waste shipping maps. Medical reports from Kimber residents. The video of Sir Reginald bowing his head in remorse. And when enough people joined, the system automatically rebuilt the whole chain of evidence. Irrevocable. Indestructible. Major headlines across continents from South Africa to Canada ran front-page stories. We were the dumping ground, now we accuse. Whitford Holdings. Crimes beneath the green glass. Amara Williams. The woman who brought down an empire with truth. Evelyn Whitford. Suburban Estate. London. Evelyn awoke to every major television network airing footage of her. Her voice, her smirk, and the moment her hands began to tremble. A message arrived from her attorney. 3 executives have resigned. Ocean Crest is frozen. Stocks down 47%. An international environmental tribunal summons has been issued. She looked into the mirror, and for the first time, I saw not a queen of power, but a fallen figure with nothing left to conceal. Ghanaian Parliament, emergency session. The Prime Minister of Ghana stood before the nation. We will seek extradition for all involved. We were once silent. Now, we reclaim our dignity. Daniel Mensah was appointed lead advisor for the Kimber Environmental Renewal Program. Footage of him embracing his mother on national television moved thousands to tears. Amara Williams, International Human Rights Center, Geneva. She stepped onto the stage to receive the Global Justice Award, not for winning a court case, but for walking beyond the law. When the law had been corrupted, she addressed the world. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who survived what the system tried to silence. My mother's voice, and millions like hers. Truth isn't a weapon. It's a light. And sometimes a single flicker is enough to make the darkness panic. If you ask me, was it worth it? I'll say I didn't want to trade my friends, family, or youth to win. But if I hadn't acted, our children would live on poisoned land. The final letter from Sir Reginald, sent after he passed from illness. Amara, I don't know if I deserve to be called that father, but if one lifetime can be redeemed, then I hope my death brings at least one thing. That power when it doesn't serve people, it is only an empty shell. I'm proud you chose truth, even when it hurt. Never apologize for breaking the silence. Reginald. Pet years later. Kimber, Ghana. The land once poisoned, now stands transformed. The Amara Williams Center for Environmental Research trains hundreds of young African environmental engineers annually. At its heart grows a baobab tree, planted on the exact site of the original toxic burial pit. Etched into the stone beneath it reads, "Nothing is buried here anymore, except fear and silence."